Okay, so today you're going to take these very different looking fruits and vegetables that are all in one photograph, and those are on my page, and you're going to turn them into this face, this little face. You're going to use selection tools to make that happen, and by learning the selection tools, you're actually going to prepare yourself for a lot more cool stuff in Photoshop down the road. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get this picture up on the screen in Photoshop, and I'm going to show you because there's zooming in and out under the view menu, and there's zooming in and out with something called the zoom tool down here. But there's a much easier way to zoom in and out. It's my favorite way. I love a shortcut. So I'm going to put my finger on the Alt key on my keyboard, and I'm just going to scroll the mouse wheel up. And when I scroll the mouse wheel up and down, it zooms in and out. Now let's say I zoom all the way in with that, with the Alt key. If I let go of the Alt key and push down the Control key, it goes side to side when I scroll. When I let go of all the keys, it goes top to bottom. So Control scrub back and forth, and Alt scrub back and forth. Just wanted to mention that because I do find myself zooming in and out a lot when I do this lesson, and this is a real handy shortcut. There's another one that you can do when you hit Control and the plus key, it zooms in. Control and the minus key zooms out. Control and the number 0, it fits everything perfectly back into your screen. But that's not how to use the selection tool, that's just how to scroll in and out. So I'm going to scroll all the way in. The first thing I want to get to is the eyeballs, right? So I'm going to scroll all the way in on this blueberry up here in the corner. And you're going to use a marquee tool. You're probably looking at the rectangular marquee right here in your toolbar. If you click and hold on it, you're going to see that there's other options underneath it. I'm going to find the elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to make a circle right around that blueberry. In order to do that, I probably want to start and click up here in one of the corners and drag down. So click and drag and let go. Now, if you don't get it just perfect the first time, that's okay. If you make one of these selections, it's fine. Just click off to the side and start over. You're going to try to draw a nice perfect circle. One of the things that's great about Photoshop is you can draw a geometry class perfect circle if you hold down the Shift key. So if you hold down the Shift key, I've drawn the absolute perfect circle, but I've drawn it in the wrong place. Now I've still got my marquee tool selected, and I've got the circle right here. I can just click right in the center, and I can sort of reorient where it is. It's perfect now. This is exactly what I want. I need to put that blueberry on top of that carrot. So I have to switch tools. This is my Move tool. Actually, it gave me the little thumbnail of what the Move tool does. And that's true. I'm going to pick this up and move it and drop it right there. No problems at all. Now I'm going to take that marquee and I'm going to draw a second circle, a much bigger one. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to click off to the side again. Then I draw another circle. Try to get the entire eyeball. It may take a little practice to get it just right at first, but once you do, you've got your eyeball. I'm going to zoom back out by pushing Alt and scrolling down. And I'm going to take my Move tool, pick the eyeball up, and put it on the face. Now I'm going to need 2 of these, right? That's how eyes work. They usually come in pairs. So what am I going to do to make a second one? There's a lot of options I have. I can do Edit Copy, Edit Paste. That's up here in the Edit menu. Copy and paste. But the actual easiest thing in the whole wide world involves putting my finger back on the Alt key again. So I've got my Move tool, I've got my selection made, I'm putting my finger back on the Alt key on my keyboard, and I'm going to pick this up and drag it, and it just gives me a second one. It's kind of a neat trick. Once you get it exactly how you like it, be careful that you have it precisely where you want it, because you've got to let that go, and it's going to stay put. You're going to deselect it. That's deselect is right there. Select, deselect. I sometimes like to hit Control D. You see how right over here, each one of these menu items that has a shortcut tells you what the shortcut is? And there it is, Control and the letter D. So that's going to deselect that. It's no longer in the selected area. The next thing on this little lesson is going to be the nose. Nope, sorry, the mouth. We're going to give him a mouth. So the mouth, I apologize, is right there. It's made out of a kiwi fruit. Same idea. We're going to take the elliptical marquee tool. I'm going to draw a circle. That's pretty good. Take the Move tool, and move the mouth over. Excellent. Next, I would like to deselect that and give him a nose. The nose is going to be made of this pear. When I get to this pear, and it looks like this, remember, I'm going to use something called the magic wand tool. The magic wand tool is hiding under the quick selection tool. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4 down from the top and then hold your mouse down on that tool, you'll find the right thing. The magic wand tool actually selects things by a range of color. And so I've got the settings up here, and I think that your setting is set like to 32 right there. I'll explain that in a second. But it'll choose things that are all in the same various range of color. So when I click on this little pear, which is mostly yellow, it gets all of the shades of yellow within a tolerance of 32. I'm pretty sure that's the default. So it gets the one exact yellow pixel that I chose, and then 32 variations on that yellow, just sort of what's close. If I change that number to something higher, I just put 90 in there, you got the whole thing. If I change that number to something lower, I put 10 in there, it just gets a very small amount. So when the number is set at 32, it does pretty well. It doesn't get the whole thing. There's another option for you. If you don't want to change the tolerance and mess around with the tolerance and try to get it just right by guessing the right number, you can also put your finger on the Shift key. When you put your finger on the Shift key, you can click more of the shape and more of the shape until you've got the selection that you want. Once you've got that, you can take your Move tool and put the nose right on the face. Anyhow, the next thing we're going to do after we deselect that is we are going to make this guy have, let's see, some eyebrows. Let's give him some eyebrows. The eyebrows are made up out of these radishes. So we're going to make one first, and then we're going to copy it and flip it around. That is going to happen all with the magnetic lasso tool. So the third tool down is lasso. And if you hold and get to the third tool out from that, it's the magnetic lasso. I'm going to zoom in on this and show you what happens. If you click and let go with the magnetic lasso, it starts to draw. I'm not pushing my mouse button at all. It's just drawing. And the very first time you use the magnetic lasso, what invariably happens to everybody is they mess up and they try to undo it. They try to go over here, and then they try to go. They get so frustrated. You try to change tools. You try to undo. You try to hit delete. You try to hit all sorts of stuff, and you find that you're just stuck in this loop. If that happens to you, just hit the Escape, ESC, in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard, and you're all good. Okay? So here's really how the magnetic lasso tool works. You pick a point that you're going to begin at, and you click, and then you just sort of drag around kind of loosely. You can make a few more clicks if you feel comfortable about it. Dragging around the shape, and it's going to, like a magnet, stick to the sides of the shape. When you get to the end, you can either double-click close to the end, and it closes the shape up, or, let me do that one more time, go around, go around. Instead of double-clicking close to the end, I'm going to get right back where I began. You see a tiny little circle that shows up to the right-hand side of my magnet. That's how I know I'm closing it out correctly. So I'm going to take my Move tool, pick it up, and give this guy an eyebrow. Now, to make 2 eyebrows, you can do the same trick as we did before, if you're so inclined, or you can copy and paste it, doesn't matter. I'm going to do my Alt and drag trick. So Alt and drag, and I've got 2 eyebrows. This one is selected, and I need to change where it's located. I need to flip it around a little bit. So I'm going to go to Edit and pull down, Edit and pull down to something that says Free Transform. When I pull down to Free Transform, that's going to put a bounding box on the outside of my shape. It's also going to turn my mouse into this curved arrow when I'm outside the box, or into this black arrow when I'm inside. It changes how my mouse looks. What I can do is I can be outside this box and click and drag and spin this thing around. If I move this little crosshair that's in the center, it just changes the spot that it flips. Okay? So what you want to do probably is get a mirror image kind of thing happening. That's where I can grab these handles. These handles are going to be really useful for this. I'm going to grab this handle that's on the left and pull it and pull it and pull it all the way and flip it all backwards over itself again to the right. And then I'm going to put that eyebrow right where it goes. And in order to accept the transformation, I'm going to hit the Enter key on my keyboard. Now, so far, so good. To do the rest of this lesson, you can start to make some decisions on your own. At this point, I can use my magnetic lasso, I can use my magic wand, I can use my marquee tools. I'm going to ask that you don't use your marquee tool for the remaining pieces because none of them are a perfect geometric shape, rather. So what I want you to try to use is the magnetic lasso or the magic wand. I'm going to give him a bow tie and a hat and some ears with all my remaining stuff. So the bow tie I think works best. Personally, I find that the magnetic lasso does the best job for that one. So I'm just going to go around that with a magnetic lasso. If you want to try the magic wand, knock yourself out. Some people are very meticulous and they want to get this just right. I don't necessarily expect that you'll want to be that meticulous. You're just learning, guys. So I'm going to go around, and there's my bow tie. Take my move tool, put that down there. I'm going to use my magnetic lasso again. And again, like if you don't love the magnetic lasso and you want to try the magic wand, you surely can. This needs another free transform too. So I'm going to go, before this selection is released, I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to say free transform. And remember how when my mouse is outside this box, it'll spin it around, right? So if I click and drag, I can spin this thing around, which is how it becomes an ear. When I hit enter on my keyboard, the transformation sticks and the bounding box goes away, but it's still selected, which is perfect because I need to make a copy. I'm going to use my Alt key and drag this over, and that's where I'm going to pull out my free transform again. Edit, free transform. And I'm going to do the same trick I did with these eyebrows. I'm going to click this handle and pull it entirely backwards. That looks about right. If you hit enter on the keyboard, then you're all set. You have a pair of ears now. Very exciting. Incidentally, if you love a shortcut, instead of going to edit and free transform, you can hit Control T. So Control and the letter T on your keyboard does the exact same trick. It's kind of good to have in your head. Lastly, we're going to give him a hat to wear, and then we're going to go ahead and cut off all the extra stuff on this picture. So the hat, you can use the well, you know what? Let me use the magic wand on that. Let's see what happens. A magic wand, and I'm going to hold down Shift and get some extra stuff. I'm holding down Shift. This is kind of difficult. Maybe not the best tool for this. You know what? I'm going to deselect that. I like to hit Control D or go to Select, Deselect. I'm not going to use the magic wand. I'm going to use the magnetic lasso. He's going to get a pretty great chef hat. Gotta love a great chef hat. And I'm going to take my move tool and put that right up here and deselect it. Now the very last thing I need to do in order to make this perfect is I need to cut the edge off. I need to make sure that there's not that extra stuff sitting over on the side. Oops, excuse me. I'm just going to cut off all this excess. That is the fifth tool down. That's the crop tool. Looks like two angles that are sort of bouncing into one another. When I click on the crop tool, it puts a bounding box for that tool on the outside of the entire frame here. If I just pull the left edge toward the center, what I'm trying to do with the crop tool is select the part I'd like to keep. Once I got it just how I want it, I'm going to hit the enter key on my keyboard, and there we are, good to go. Now what happens a lot of the time with the crop tool is you'll accidentally have it drag just around one thing. That's frustrating. But what you can do instead of panicking is just stretch it out. All you're trying to do is get the stuff you want to keep on the inside of this box. Once you have it like that, then you're done. If you did wind up with extra layers in there somehow, you might just have an extra random layer. To flatten that out, you would go to layer, and tell it to either merge down or flatten. Doesn't matter. Let's go with flatten. Squished them all together into one background layer. So when you have Mr. Melon Head, just like this, go ahead and save him to your folder. It'll probably save as a Photoshop document, and then we will take a look and see how you did.